Breaking news just a few minutes ago, President Trump tweeted that he is going to, quote, substantially increase sanctions on Iran. The response coming just days after the attack on Saudi Arabia's oil industry, which originated in Iranian territory. NBC's Peter Alexander at the White House. Peter, what more do you know about this?
Yes, Stephanie, let's get right to that tweet again from the president. He said, I've just instructed the Secretary of Treasury to, as you noted, substantially increase sanctions on the country of Iran. These would be the first new sanctions on Iran since last November. Obviously, it doesn't rule out further action by the administration. It's unclear whether this is the entirety of the response or if it's just a portion of it. You'll remember the Secretary of State, Mike Pompeo, arrives in Saudi Arabia just a few hours from now. He's scheduled to meet with the Crown Prince, Mohammed bin Salman, where the two men are expected to discuss, at least according to the administration, the recent attack that took place in Saudi Arabia and to coordinate efforts to combat aggression by Iran in the region. As we have reported, the administration is weighing a range of options right now, including a cyber attack or a physical strike on Iranian oil facilities or Revolutionary Guard assets as well. That's according to U.S. officials and others briefed on the deliberations. On Monday, the president chaired a national security meeting here in the Situation Room, and military leaders there presented him with a list of possible actions against Iran. But people briefed on the meeting say that the president asked for more, that he was looking for a more narrow response that would not draw the U.S. into a broader conflict with Iran. So what would that look like? Our national security team says it could entail a strike by Saudi Arabia that the U.S. would effectively support, but wouldn't require the U.S. to take any independent military action. Stephanie?
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.